We are gonna ask folks to say where they are joining from. So let's invite folks to check it out. Brandon and Lauren are already doing that. They're checking it out. We got folks from Duluth, Minnesota, Sparta, Wisconsin, Chile. We got Chile in the room. We got Laura from England. Welcome. Andrew from Cleveland, Ohio, British Columbia. Steve, they're coming from all over the world to see you speak. Do you see that right now? How does that feel leaning in as an Irishman, having the world show up for your talk today?
It is a pleasure to be here, Justy, and with yourself and flying the Irish flag. So can't wait to talk all things life, sauna, journey, entrepreneurship, all the above.
If you guys aren't from Ireland, Steve will, in quick work, become your favorite Irishman today in all the things he's going to talk about. So thank you for being here. I'm so excited for everybody to meet you, Steve, if they haven't already. We have folks from all over going on here. I'm seeing more North Carolina. Ooh, we got Kildare, Ireland represented. Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati. We have Wales. Another from Ireland. We got Craig from Brooklyn, Fort Bragg, California. So we got folks all over, and they just keep coming in. If you just joined us, welcome, welcome, welcome. Here with Justin and Steve, and we're just asking where you coming from in the world. Kev O'Connell saying Chicago Irish. Chicago's a very proud Irish city with lots of immigrants there, and Kev's joining us from Chicago today. And we have William Jenkins saying, the man, the myth, the legend, been following Steve's amazing journey. So you got fans here. You got fans here.
Go on, Will. There's fans. Wow, this is amazing.
So you guys, as you can already tell, if you're chatting in and you're telling us where we're coming from, this is not one of those boring webinars where we're going to give you a slide deck and we're going to go through and you're going to have to listen to us on a PowerPoint. We are sitting around the digital coffee table today. Our webinars are always interactive and connected, and we want to engage with you this whole time. Steve and I are going to talk about some stuff. There are going to be some key points along the way where we're going to invite you to interact. And before we do that, I do want to introduce Steve. We're going to do the big formal introduction, Steve, because we're going to be like very conversational throughout. You're probably going to talk it down. But here's the thing. You're a big deal. You've done some cool stuff and you're doing amazing things right now. And so for everybody who's joining in, please, please, please meet Steve Crosbie. Steve is the founder and CEO of Fad Saoil Saunas out of Ireland. You guys are doing some amazing things there. We're going to hear your story of kind of being the first sauna company by the sea and inviting people to jump in the ocean and the water, as well as your background in all things rugby, playing pro rugby. I mean, you played World Cup for Ireland, you played in New Zealand. I mean, you're doing the thing that everybody sees when they think rugby, and you were doing it at the pro highest level. And now you've shifted gears from pro sports to pro sauna, I think. Maybe that's something of what we're doing. And so you guys are in for a treat to get to meet Steve, to know him today. And we're going to sort of walk through all of his journey and the difficulty. We're going to get into the real stuff. But Steve, thank you so much for being here today. What an honor to get to hang out with you even more.
Thanks so much, Justy. And being Irish, it's not innate for us to actually be able to accept such a lovely greeting like that, an introduction like that. So yeah, I can't wait to just get into it and talk all things, life and journeys.
So I've made you feel uncomfortable already. Perfect. We're going to get into the vulnerable moments 4 minutes into the talk. So you guys check out, we sent over Fad Saoil Saunas in the chat link. Grab that. Go check out the website there. But as you're doing that, again, let's interact in this space. Lindsay's on the back end for us. She's going to help us out with some things. Lynn, why don't you send over that first poll? You're going to see this pop up right on your screen right now. And simply we're going to ask you some questions throughout. The first one is simply, have you ever been to a public bathing facility? We're talking about a thing that's sort of unique and odd today. That is going into the public sphere. Steve, you're doing this all over Ireland. You're sort of like popping up saunas on sea coasts and coffee shops and rugby training facilities. And we need to know from the people who are in the room, have they ever done any of this, or does this sound absolutely bonkers? Well, people are clicking that poll and letting us know where they're at with it. Give us a yes or a no. Steve, how many facilities are sort of popping up right now for you and your team?
So yeah, we have an array of facilities. We've 4 currently, and they all have their own weird and wild and wonderful kind of environments. Very much started off with needing the sea. It's very cultural in Ireland, and trying to get people to actually embrace it was the challenge and the whole reason and the mission. But sauna has gotten so mainstream that I think you could put it into an alleyway at this point and it would have a chance to actually impact. So it's terribly exciting. What an interesting space to be in globally, that we've spoken about so much. You'll we'll delve into, but yeah, it's kind of a necessity at this stage, right? Like, you absolutely need to try this lifestyle hack.
And we're gonna dive into that today. I do want to celebrate with most of our folks. 86% of our people said, yep, they've been to some type of public bathing facility. Now that looks a whole lot of ways. We've done webinars that have kind of unpacked all the different models that are happening right now. And at the same time, Steve, I'm really excited because you're thinking really innovatively about how do we tuck sauna in and pair it with other businesses and get it connected to the community so that more and more people can use it. So let's dive into that. And before we do, I just want to invite everybody. You're going to probably have a question for Steve along the way. You're going to probably have a question for me and say, like, and want to ask that. The way that we do that is through our Q&A function. There's a Q&A button there. Also, feel free to put a bunch of things in the chat window if that's comfortable. If you're hearing Steve make a great comment, give him a quote there, give him an emoji, thumbs up, high fives, all those things. And our Q&A windows, we're going to manage a lot of those questions coming through. We're not going to save a bunch of time at the end for questions. Remember, we're sitting around the digital coffee table here. We're going to just answer them as they come in along the way. So throw those in there. Now, Steve, I want to know a little bit here around the Fad Saoil story. I want to know what the heck that means, because I'm not from Ireland and that sounds deeply Gaelic. It's a language I don't understand. And
Yep.
let's just unpack like what you've been doing on this beautiful green rocks of Ireland and how you've been inviting people to Sauna. Tell us a little bit of the story. What are you guys up to today?
Yeah. Okay. So Fad Saoil. It means longevity and long life in Irish. Comes from an old Irish sláinte. And I suppose when I was coming up with the idea, I was in college doing sports and exercise management at the time and was given a chance to do a research project. And I had decided to do it, focus on sauna bathing as a post-recovery activity method for adults. Because I went back as a mature student, I was making sure that after I finished rugby that I was going to give everything I could to my next journey or venture when I decided to do the entrepreneurial life. And yeah, so that's where it started from. And it was all about trying to communicate, educate, inspire people about stepping out of their comfort zone a bit, embracing the unknown. That's our mantra with everything we do in Fad Saoil. Because I do think we're in a bit of a comfort crisis globally. Although we do have the likes of our digital coffee table to connect globally, I do think we forget to physically go out to connect, reconnect, and disconnect. And I just think there can't be enough emphasis now more than ever after the pandemic era. I know it's 4 years ago, which is mad to think, but I do think that there's a massive chance for us to really coincide and co-evolve with the many benefits of technology, but not forgetting the traditional methods of making sure that you're looking after yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally. So yeah, and kind of an all-encompassing lifestyle business.
Yeah, I think that, we're seeing this wave of sauna and cold plunge and all these things popping up. And I think you're right. It's that we're in a comfort crisis, but we're also sort of deeply needing experiences that are more human,
Yeah,
experiences that connect us to our bodies, experiences that connect us to other people. And by the way, the internet can do amazing things, but it is a cheap replica of actual human interaction. It's connection, but not quality. And I think that, you know, more and more we're seeing this, not just in Ireland, in North America, throughout Europe. There's places where this is sort of being discovered in a new way. Steve, talk about like what are the, just give us like a real quick overview. How many locations, how many staff, and how many people every year are going through these saunas that you have all over the place?
yeah. So we have 4 locations. We have 5 staff allocated to each, and how many do we have annually? Roughly between 40 to 50,000 people a year annually. And the key thing, which we're really proud about, is more regular, repeated people, as opposed to the smash and grab, the one and done. If you want to start being able to brag about the health benefits and wax lyrical about what they do, and we do want everybody to understand what they are, but you got to put the work in by actually doing the practice and not just doing it once and going to the pub and then telling everybody how great you are as you go do a sauna once a week. It's all about embedding the lifestyle choice, and that's where we're at now, which is amazing, because it was all about trying to just break the surface and just really kind of just come in hot, excuse the pun, but just making sure that everybody actually tried it first, because once you try it, you can't deny the feeling that you're feeling.
So just a quick pause here for everybody who's listening. I want to make sure they heard these numbers correctly through your lovely Irish brogue. 40 to 50,000 people coming into these saunas and using it per set, you know, for that many sessions, people on seats. And many of those are returners. But why I want you to hear that is a significant number of humans. That is a lot of people going through each year. That's a lot of, I often tell entrepreneurs, you need to be ready as a sauna entrepreneur. You need to be ready to like clean hair out of the drains and wipe sweaty butt sweat from benches. Like that's like, yeah, cool vision. Also, you got to do the dirty work to get there. But that is so many people, Steve. Like it is making significant impact on their lives. And yes, I think it maybe a little bit later, we can kind of dive in on some of that science on the returning thing is good for business. It's also good for our bodies and our health. Like that is some of the joy there, is helping people weave this into their life. So you guys are doing some big things around Ireland. I mean, it's now you're in multiple locations. They're popping up every day. You got, I feel like every time I look on Instagram, I'm seeing you guys having a new site and you're like, have another coffee in your hand. That's like the thing I keep seeing. Talk to me a little bit about, as this was getting going, I know you guys have been involved in huge festivals. You've met the, you know, Irish royalty of Bono. You got some stories that I think we should like tell the world here. How did all this get started?
Yeah, I suppose we started in 2019. I suppose I started in 2019 just because like I wouldn't normally take credit for just myself's work, but like my friends and family and myself, we started this in 2019. But we started up in Dunleary in the 40 foot in Dublin, which is one of the best swimming locations in the country, and managed to secure a license there. Opened it with Ironman 70.3, which is like a half Ironman distance, and then we had these elite athletes coming in and availing of it as a recovery method just before coming into their competition and post competition. So then striking up a conversation, because you meet so many people from different walks of life when you're standing outside that room. Because that was the key thing for me, was making sure that it wasn't just for elite athletes and recovery methods. And although that's the result, it was all about trying to make it as attractive as possible for somebody who want to open that door and be on the other side and enter the room. So we thankfully got approached by a company that does music festivals, and they said, would you be able to bring this down to thing into their music festival for the artist area? And we said, of course, even though we were only a week in business, didn't know how that was going to work. How do we do this? How do we do that? But, you know, typical entrepreneur life, you just say yes and figure it out. So we managed to get it down there. And again, me just trying to be overly prepared and set up and everything. And I'm going full pitch mode here when I'm in setup, and I'm like, hi guys, how are you? Steve Crosbie here from Fad Saoil Saunas, and going 100 miles an hour and doing everything that I hate that somebody would do if they're trying to actually promote a service. But then started kind of finding my feet and calming down a bit. And then this lady came across and she was like, oh my God, a sauna, this is awesome. And she had a hood on and glasses on, and I was like, yeah, we're Fad Saoil Saunas, and we're the first Irish professional mobile sauna service in the country, and we're here to promote hot cold immersion therapy. She's like, oh my God, can I see it? And I was like, absolutely, come on in. So I opened the door. She's looking at it. Oh my God, the window, the view, it's amazing. I don't even think I'm in a sauna. And yeah, we just had a lovely interaction. And I was like, look, we have togs if you want to come and avail of it. And she's like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, 100%. And then her manager actually shared it and yelled her name, and then that was at that moment where I knew that I had kind of missed a pretty decent opportunity. But turns out it was Billie Eilish, who was standing admiring our sauna and was ready to go in and get in, but unfortunately she had to go and prep for her set. So, but you know what, I was actually, like I say that story because then my fiance it just came around the corner with her jaw to the floor. I was like, you have no idea who you're just talking to there. And I didn't at the time. But I'm kind of delighted as well because, you know, proud of myself for just treating her like a normal person and not putting on her pedestal and just having a good chat and just the general interest. And she was going to go use it, but never did. So, Biddy, if you're here and if you're listening, we're still open. So anytime you're over in Ireland, just give us a shout, okay?
I love it. I mean, that story illustrates a lot. And it, you know, one of which was that commitment to seeing an opportunity and saying yes. And as an entrepreneur, you know, there is some figuring out on the fly. There is some innovating as you go. Also, I think it's super important to whoever you meet, serve people and customers with great customer service no matter what, you know, regardless of if they are the Billie Eilishes of the world or they are your average, you know, come off the street local community member who wants to kind of invest in their lifestyle in that way. So well done. Billie Eilish is my daughter's favorite artist, and we're going to go see her in November here in Minnesota. So I will, if we happen to run into her there, I'll make sure to, you know, talk back and say next time she's in Ireland to come connect. You guys, there's some really good questions popping over in our Q&A. We can see them. You can't see them yet. We'll be getting to them shortly. Don't forget to put them in there if you have some of those questions. Steve, I wanna sort of dive in a little deeper here, and that is I want to illustrate, and I want people to see what is happening. They're hearing your story, they're hearing the locations, they're hearing numbers, all those good things. Lindsay, if you could share that little bit of video that we can do here. And Steve, I just want you to sort of talk a little bit about what you guys are doing. And this one thing I really love is this connection to dipping in the sea. And then this commitment to innovating and saying, we want this to be for everybody. You know, you don't get to 50,000 people by saying this is an elite opportunity for the few. You get to it by saying, we want to get as many people in here as possible. So we're probably there might be a point here. I know there's some entrepreneurs in the room who are going to be wanting to unpack pricing and packages and all those things. So we can get to that. But let's just kind of dive in here and look. I want you to tell us, and we'll do a little bit of show and tell. Linz, if you could share the screen with that. Talk a little bit more about what you guys are doing and how, in some ways, like what is it? What are you guys doing differently, and how does that actually play out?
Yeah, I suppose I just feel like we've kept it very simple by highlighting the fun. When we're getting older and pressures come on and time is less because it's such a precious commodity, you forget to just actually enjoy yourself a lot of the time. And when I was transitioning out of rugby and going through quite a big identity crisis at the time, it was a lot of life questions, and I was just so lucky that I got to experience something that I love so much. But I'm going to go back to the video here because I can see it here now. But basically, how we're trying to do it is just, as that tagline says, embrace the unknown. That moment where somebody suggests something that gives you a little bit of jitter, gives you a little bit of fear, gives you the shits a bit, and makes you actually think, could I do this or not? And I suppose that's what the sauna was merely for a lot of people in Ireland, to overcome their fear of the cold. So it's merely combining hot and cold, keeping it simple, barely even saying it was a sauna, not highlighting it with big, massive signage or anything like that. Went very old school with our marketing, went very kind of backwards. We just chucked a barrel up there because why? We wanted to be able to get to speak to those people and not allow them just to read the word sauna and have a preconception of what that is, what that means, because for me, when I first entered into sauna world, it was very much with a recovery element. But when I experienced it the way that I did out in the 40 foot, where we managed to get the local swimmers in on a gorgeous sunrise morning, it was like cracking the Da Vinci Code because these guys have been doing it for years. They're hardy boys. They just didn't want to even believe that they needed this. And it was something as simple as saying, I'm not saying you need this, but try it and tell me you don't like it. And once they tried it once, I will never forget that day because they burst out of the door after getting them in, after 2 weeks of an empty room, crying, laughing, like they basically looked at me and stared at me in the eye and were just like, you're after ruining swimming for us. We now need this all the time. And that I just never laughed so much more in my life, just because I do enjoy changing people's minds and opinions. Not for like my own ego rub or anything like that, but I just get very intrigued when somebody's so passionate about any answer, be it yes or no. I just find it so funny when somebody looks at me and goes, how do you get into the sea all the time? That's just like, you're mad, you're crazy. And the second they say that, I know there's interest there. And I know that there's something that they want to unlock. And I just love being able to try to help that as much as possible by merely just having a facility that allows somebody to overcome the fear of cold.
I think it's such a wonderful sort of Irish way to sort of trick them into it by just saying, no, tell me you don't love it, right? Like it's so winsome. And I often say the sauna does the heavy lifting. Like if we do this right and we make sure it's clean and make sure it's heated well and make sure it's operated properly and make sure it's safe, regardless of how you do it, the sauna is going to make people feel great. So you sort of allowed them to just taste test, appetizer moment of like, hey, just tell me if that works. And I don't know. I mean, I think there's some beauty in just getting people in there to create the viral storytelling, people talking about it, and maybe ruining their experience of cold water swimming in the sea forever.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Steve, we got some really good questions coming in. I wanna hit a couple of them, and then
Yeah.
after that, I wanna come back to this idea because the title of this is Gaining Clarity as an Entrepreneur. And I have the imagination that yes, this looks nice now, and we just watched a nice Instagram video, and Instagram makes everything look a little shinier than it usually is. I have the imagination that it's been kind of hard at a few points, and I'd love to sort of just be getting towards the difficult moments too. And one of them, we have a couple of conversations and things coming in here. I'm going to hit it right away. Samuel says, hey, Steve, how do you cope with the weight of stress, risk, and doubt? You've had a lot of adversity with location, council, permits, COVID, etc. So if you could just kind of start that road for us, Steve, of like, what are the ways you're actually carrying your weight as an entrepreneur and doing that in a healthy way, as opposed to, I hope we're not going to hear, you know, your addiction to drugs, alcohol, blowing up your relationships, which is like, just so everybody knows, that's possible. A lot of
Yeah.
business owners do that. That's so. Talk a little bit about how you're holding that weight and how you're handling that adversity, Steve.
Yeah, well, Sam obviously has been following the journey, which is amazing. How do you hold that way? I suppose it was sea swimming always for me to get my mental clarity. At the time, through my rugby journey, the why was recovery methods, but I didn't even think about what mental clarity was giving me at the time, because all it was for me getting my body right for the next day. But then when rugby was no more, you actually look at it and from a totally different way, totally different lens, and you see the mental clarity, you see the social interaction. You will rarely meet better communities than sauna or see people. You can't walk past them without somebody saying hi. Very old school at heart, and I just think again, you nearly get looked at with 10 heads these days if you just say hi to a random stranger. So I just, yeah, for me, Sam, the coping mechanisms are always have been. There's no coincidence that I go into these tough, hormetic environments, like hormesis being stress, for those who don't know. Like why I fall in love with sauna, it's because it's hard. Like, you need to be so present to actually endure through this thing. And that's not to scare anybody either. It's just to highlight the intensity that it can be if you are doing a certain type of way for it, or even for the colds. People are listening to different protocols and different methods and sticking to specific measures. But again, it takes so long to be able to get to those types of numbers or those measures of that tolerance. And for me, whenever times are tough, it's simple things like breathing, big into my breathing, and learned a lot the last 2 years through it. Again, just, you know, a component that just comes into you when you get those moments of silence in sauna, and you're like, wow, it's actually nuts at how there's so many people that don't actually get this moment to just try to breathe properly in a day-to-day life, and forget to do it because we're so stimulated all the time, where even when we don't think we're doing something, you've got a watch that's dinging, you've got a phone that's ringing, you've got people coming into you left, right, and center, and you're just so highly stimulated without even realizing it. So for me, it's just always, whenever there's stress, bring it back to basics. It's a big saying in rugby as well. Brilliant basics always is the way. So when things just seem like they're getting too complicated, too crazy, things like councils, things like insurance and permits, it's about just reshaping it. Like if it doesn't work the first time, that's not done, never happening again. It's like, okay, what did I say there that didn't zone in? What did I miss that was not the language that they were looking for? What have I not covered? And when you can think about it that way and try your best to keep the emotional attachment away from it, you'll get there eventually with little small increments of progress.
I think that's so important for people to hear, because especially in these types of businesses, we have some questions coming in that are kind of around like, how did you make the thing work there? How do you get the permit for the thing? Guess what? In most places, there are not permits for saunas by the seaside. There are not there's not a handbook or a protocol for how to run these businesses perfectly in every location throughout the world and at every size and scale. And I think for some folks, that's the challenge of still waking up every day and getting after it and solving the challenges and problems of that day. I think about it a lot like a marathon, but it's a marathon that has hurdles. So you're sort of running the race, and it's hard just because it's long and you're needing to pace yourself. And oh, by the way, things get thrown in your way every single week as an entrepreneur, every single week as a business owner. And sometimes because we are in the business of helping people de-stress and recover, it looks, it looks dreamy. It looks, oh, that's so fun. Wow, you just help people do that every day. That's what a joy to go hop in the water and hang out and be at the spa. And I think I'm hearing you say such a different voice of, no, when I hit a roadblock, it doesn't mean no, never, there's no chance. It means, how do I reframe that? How do I get around the barrier? How do I get to the next conversation where we can maybe get to yes?
Yeah.
Did you have a lot of those leading up as you were looking at locations and deciding on locations, Steve? Talk to us a little bit about sort of where you decide to put one, and you might have had a few spots in your head that were perfect that didn't work out, or some that did. Talk a little bit about how that happened.
Yeah, 100%. And again, just even on that skill of like learning to be adverse and to diversify, like it comes from the rugby background, because it's such a transitional field where okay, yeah, rugby is a field sport, but then just we were always taught that like the skill set that you do end up learning and practicing on a pitch. Now telling me that when I was 20 years of age, I was like, what are you talking about? I'm throwing a ball around the pitch. Like, how the hell am I going to be able to wear a suit and tie and bring this into an office kind of environment? Was the way that I was thinking I was 20. But you think of the actual skill sets that come with it, where, you're strategic. You have to be very aware and acutely aware of what the conditions are, what people you have on your team, who is very good at making sure that you are in a good position to potentially score points, and then using those things and teamwork and communicate, and all in a high pace and really high intense environment. So then when you think of that, and then going into a entrepreneurial lifestyle, very hard for me. I always worked well in teams. I can't wait to really build out this team properly. I'm sick to death of doing this alone. It's been the hardest thing for me, definitely. But in terms of permits and securing it, it's a great story. Like I would love to say that I took all the time in the world and mapped it all out perfectly and just clicked the button and secured the license, and that happened. It didn't work that way. It was very Irish, as you alluded to there, Justin, where I kind of been, thought that I was being referred on by, decent people to allow me to have a chance to actually really think that this is going to be put in front of the right person to get the right answer. And 3 or 4 times let down, and then I was kind of sick to death of like going to my swimming spot. Then I really left a tainted kind of taste of it every time I was going through the town, and I was like, I'm just shocked at why they said no. I just can't understand. So I went in as Joe Blogs, suit and tie on with a PowerPoint presentation. Just went straight up to reception. Actually a bit stupid, naive, bit bullish. I went in and was like, "Yeah, look, I have a business idea. Is there anybody here that can listen to me?" And the gentleman behind the desk just burst out laughing, kind of thing, being like, "Who's this man think he is?" kind of thing. He's like, "I'll listen to you. Sure, go on." And I was like, "Okay." Took out the presentation, had it all pitched off, rehearsed hours on end. I will say that. And didn't even need to look at the deck. Was showing him so transparently. He knew that I had not just tried this. He knew that I'd gone through struggle. He could see it. He could see the want. He could see the passion and the heartache and the time, effort, and energy. That this wasn't just a cool idea. I'd gone back to college to do it. I knew that I didn't know all the answers. And he said, "Sure, where do you want to put that?" And then I showed him a location that I was willing to give up because I knew I still didn't know all the answers. So I brought him down. He showed me. I showed him where I wanted to put it. I then learned from this. He goes, "You can't put it here because traffic management, defibrillators too far away, you're too close to a disabled spot." All these things that I would never have been able to read from a book. And it was just fascinating that they were the little things. So then we got in the car and started talking rugby and started talking life. And he's like, "You're still onto something though there, buddy. Like, don't give up now. You're doing well. Like, you're very close." And I was like, "I just want to show you one more place." And then he starts being very disgruntled at this stage because I'm after taking up his lunchtime. And a few curse words were thrown left, right, and center in the car. But I was just adamant to show him because I knew then after hearing all these things, drove him up to the spot, and I was like, "What about here?" Like, none of them are an issue here. Just give me a chance, give me a trial period, curate it whatever way you want. I will tow this thing in and out every day, and I will try, and I will just show you the need for this for the community because I'm a swimmer. I knew that it was there. I knew people wanted to do it, and how much impact it would have. And he gave me a trial, and we succeeded. We got through it and granted a permit, and that's when I knew we had a chance. And then the momentum was amazing. It was like the reactions that we got from people was just something I'll never relive. I don't think it was like adults seeing Santa Claus, and it was like the most amazing feeling to being able to bring that, because everybody wants to be able to get into the sea in Ireland, but not many have that mental barrier to overcome. And yeah, that was the start of it really. So we got a chance, took it, momentum gathered, and COVID hit, and we regathered and dust ourselves off. And we went through the process emotionally, devastation, completely flipped upside down, all the hard work just gone. Do we throw in the towel now? How can we do this? And again, just doing things you can control. So control the controllable. Again, another really like rugby cliche kind of quote. And it's like, got onto a local enterprise office to get some mentorship and told her about our business, what we do. She'd understood it. She never actually experienced it, but she decided, she was just like, would you not sell products? That will keep you busy. And also it will expand your business by the time then you actually end up being able to reallocate. And it was just so simple to just be like, okay, let's put the emotion aside here. We've gone through it, we've processed, we've grieved. Now it's like action. Okay, so we can still provide service of comfort. We can still provide service of relaxation. So got onto companies that did like recovery sliders, acupressure mats, breathing classes. We hosted out during COVID and stuff like that. Just doing what we could to our community that we had, and kept trying. And then when the time came, we managed to think innovatively again, only from talking to another fellow entrepreneur in a car park in my rugby club, whose creche was closing, and she had a container that was no longer being needed for storage. And she was like, do you have any need for this? And I didn't know if I did, but I just said yes. And she kindly gave it to me for a very fair price. And that's our sauna in Greystones now. And just showing where like stopping and having a conversation and not having any agenda, and just showing a bit of humility, just to show how things can happen out of nowhere then. And just when you are a good person, big believer in karma, big believer in it being paid back in God knows what way, but when you just give somebody the most precious commodity, which is time and respect to listen, I just feel like that's the best thing you could do for anybody. So that's where I got to. Yeah, that's the start of it, really.
So Steve, I'm hearing kind of a number of things there that I just want to double click on for everybody listening. One, it's this car ride where you took them to two different spots and you eventually got the yes. And again, a bit of your Irish charm going on there. Plus this commitment to communicating strategically about what you're trying to make happen. And I think, and I know there's some folks already in the comments, already in the chat, hey, what kind of permission do you need? How do you make this? Where do you put it? All of those things. In some ways, you actually need to do everything. You need to run the numbers as a business person to make sure this is a spot where people will come. You also need to, in a lot of places, know how far a defibrillator might be, or understand the sort of parameters for the city, understand the business that you might be working with. And we're talking a little bit right now about a kind of a pop-up residency model. Yours have been delivered to sites built, as well as kind of mobile. I think a lot of people think about mobile, but you are there operating multiple days a week without having to move an object, without having to move your sauna once you get it up and running. And some of them are now down the road, 4 years later, more and more built out than that. Is that right, Steve? Just to kind of help people understand
Yeah,
where you are in the stages of a built out bathhouse to a mobile
yeah,
horse trailer. You're kind of in the middle, right?
yeah, 100%. So the roadmap, but I suppose, yeah, started off with that trial period permit, and it was mobile. Now, again, the hardship. This is not a violin story. Like, had to get up at like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning to get that thing towed down, be the first down there, get it burnt up, get it ready, get it clean, get it set up for 7 months straight, in and out every day. We were only allowed to operate from 6 a.m. until 10 a.m. midweek. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we were granted from 6 a.m. until 4 p.m. And he gave me the license kind of tongue in cheekly again, just being like, there's no way he's going to say yes to this, because like, what business can survive during 4 hours of operations midweek? But I was so blindly confident. No, look, don't get me wrong, I'm not blindly confident. Like, as Justin alluded to, did the numbers, knew what was gonna be needed. I am a swimmer. I know the needs and wants. I was very much involved in the community. What is this place missing? And that was really it. So we then evolved from that to the back of a local cafe, Sandy Cove Storing Yard, which is a local one. It's about 800 meters away from where we were. So then we took that out just during COVID. We weren't going to be able to actually pay the rent or the rates, so had to start all over again. To then the conversion of the sauna container during the lockdown period in the gorgeous fields in Wicklow for about 12 weeks. For those of you who know Jeremy Clarkson and Clarkson's Farm, it's one of my favorite series on TV. Go watch it. It's about a guy who knows nothing about farming or how to farm, and just people taking the living piss out of him the whole time. That was me building a sauna. Before this business started, I couldn't even turn off fire unless I had a remote. I'm telling you now, I am the worst DIYer you'll ever meet. But that doesn't mean I can't do it now after learning and trying it and giving it a go. Am I the best? No, but I can definitely do it. And then you get to our opportunities that we took, where we got a 2-week trial period down in North Beach and Greystones, which is our current home, but not in that location. To then, where are we going to go after this in 2 weeks' time? Again, just being innovative and creative. One of my best mates, Valentine Taumiti from New Zealand, connected me to the New Zealand All Blacks rugby team. And I approached Bray County Council to see would we be able to operate the sauna on the beach, with the promise of being able to bring the All Blacks down to the local community. So we managed to do that, which was absolutely wild moment, real pinch me moment. To then relocating to where we are now currently in Greystones at Rise of the Cove, in affiliation with a social enterprise cafe, which is 100% my proudest milestone that we've managed to collaborate with these guys on, and really delving into the impacts of what this thing can do on life.
So Steve, Cami is saying, she's quoting you here, what business can survive? A business that is intent to truly bless people's lives. Steve, you're so inspiring. And I think that, some of these questions are like, how do I do a thing? And something that is forever true about being an entrepreneur is the people who survive are the people who never give up. And they're the people who keep going, and they commit to the project and the assignment and the effort, maybe sort of with a level of crazy, right? Like with a level of like, hey, we don't know how we're going to get there, but we are going to get there. And I know we're going in that direction. And so I keep hearing that in you. And it, from do-it-yourselfer, from 4 a.m. waking up, from being only able to operate 4 hours a day. And now you guys have multiple locations. Now you guys are hosting nearly 50,000 people a year. Now you have 20 staff members. Did I hear that right? 5
Yeah.
staff at each location.
Yeah.
And so just to help sort of level the playing field on a couple of these questions for folks listening in, again, there isn't a right answer other than entrepreneurs are relentless. They continue to commit to the thing that they think they're called to, the thing that they're committing to make happen, and they continue to do that, no matter what the stakes are, no matter what the cost. Now, I will say, and Steve, what I think is so amazing is I think you are an anomaly. I think you are hosting an unbelievable amount of people because you've sort of got in the culture there. And there's a lot of people that it takes them millions of dollars to get to a scale like 50,000 people a year. It actually takes them building a full brick and mortar bathhouse. And there are things that are easier about that probably than the way in which that you've gone about it. And
Yeah.
I know that there's some of that vision in your mind. And so I do want to highlight for folks that are kind of interested in kind of launching a business like this. We have a program, Lindsay's sending over the link right now, the Sound of Business Accelerator, where we work with folks for a year to sort of unpack all these questions, to coach, to be strategic and tactical, to contextualize it for your area, to whether you're thinking of mobile, to thinking of building a $20 million bathhouse. We've had folks from all over that spectrum in there. And I want to highlight one of our previous webinars, if you weren't there, with Annette Scott, where we really unpack all the different business models that can happen. And Annette is just a wonder. She's doing it in Tampa, Florida, which is, you know, some of the hottest weather in the US. And she is, like Steve, hosting tens of thousands of people a year because she's committed to community, and she's committed to quality, and she's committed to serving a community of people to live better. And I see that in you continuously, Steve. It's this commitment to the people that breeds more people that want to be a part of what you're doing. It's a little bit of this movement happening, not just business happening. Would you say that you've felt that way along the way, that you're sort of stewarding maybe a movement?
I don't know if I would be okay with being titled as the person who's forerunning the movement. I think there's a global movement, and I think that is definitely a result of the pandemic. I do think we were ahead of the curve, because just through my previous experiences, without even realizing it, like things like going to gym facilities to go use a sauna to recover, and having to pay full price to use a gym and a sauna when I don't want to use the gym. It always really annoyed me. It was like €30 or $30 to go avail of only one thing that you're going to use. And straight away, that tilting point decision-making process made me not want to do it, even though I really wanted to do it and had a big why. So I was like, if I really wanted to do that and I wasn't willing to actually put my money towards it, then surely the kind of pay-as-you-sauna model, there has to be a demand for it. And then I started talking about it, getting brave, because when I first started thinking about it, very like cards close to chest. I'm not telling anybody about my little baby, my idea. Everyone's going to copy what I do and all this stuff. And then it's again, when you're just through the luxury of being felt like I was given time again to study, and I'm doing a sports psychology module, and there's a philosopher of Edward de Bono's Six Thinking Hats, and it's all about how every decision that has ever been made, there's 6 different hats that are depicted by colors that depict the emotion, depict the logic of it, the love of it, the fear of it. And I just had that kind of thinking process toward everything then afterwards, because I got totally obsessed with the decision-making processes that people make in day to day and how automatic we are without even realizing half of them. And then you go to something like, would you go for a swim? And you get a passionate no from a lot of people. And that made me so interested. It made me laugh. And then, as opposed to getting offended, I just laughed. I was like, why do you hate this so much? I was like, and then it normally comes down to 2 things. Like, either they had a traumatic experience that they will never forget, be it like heartfelt, witty experience where they might have been splashed and got cold and just ruin their day, or like an actual potential traumatic experience, or they never even tried it. And I'm just a big believer in, you know, nothing until you've experienced it. It's like, how am I going to listen to somebody who talks about saunas or cold bathing and they don't even do it, you know? So I think the fact that I kind of live the DNA of the business, and it's in me. Like whether Fad Saoil closes tomorrow or not, I'm still going to be doing this thing. I just think there's a lot to be said for that. And
People
I
can
suppose,
people can sniff that out so fast when you don't believe in the product enough to use it yourself. You know, that's the sleazy salesperson who's just trying to get your money and get the thing and
yeah,
get it in your hands. And I think especially so in wellness spheres and in sort of health spheres, there is a little bit of this. Is this snake oil you're trying to sell me? Is this really just some new fad? And I think you're tapping into and you're saying, no, 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 this is lifestyle. Hey, they're like, you want to talk science? Great, let's talk science. I've studied exercise physiology in my background in university. Absolutely. Also, you're just sort of pointing them to experience and quality of like, hey, have you never tried it? Give it a try. Prove to me that you don't love it. I think it's great. Who are the people? There's some questions coming in. Craig's asking, speaking of customers, uh, do you see a wide range of demographics, or are there specific ages? Do you skew younger? Do you skew older? You know, for you guys, specifically in your locations, is there a target market that you're shooting for? Is there, you're trying to get everybody in and you're actually seeing everybody come in?
yeah. Like anybody who asks me that question, in terms of anybody's like asking me to nail down my business model or whatever target market, they get really annoyed with this answer, because I truly believe it's about for everybody. Now, don't get me wrong, there's still method to the madness. There is specific segments, and I would say if I had to choose, a 35 to 42-year-old age seems to be the number of collaborating. Analyzing over all of our locations. But what I get so excited about is the youth, and how the sauna and the comparison of the pub environment that we have coined since 2019 has had such an impact on people who are transitioning into the likes of third level education and stuff. And it's a daunting time. I remember doing it and not really knowing what I wanted to do other than rugby. And that was not exactly a good strategy in terms of career, because it's not a given. And it kind of that fear again, it either makes or breaks you. And thankfully, it drove me on. But I know a lot of people who are transitioning and going into third level education and being luxurious enough to be in that position to be able to do so. But those transitional periods in our lives that sometimes just get the better of people. And I love the fact that this place has become a bit of a social hub for young people who aren't necessarily into just going out, drinking their brains out and forgetting about the night and not wanting to be physically present. But all they are looking for is total mind body presence, talking to other people, meeting new people, because it's so difficult if you're not into specific interests. So that's probably a long-winded answer.
No, no, it's good. And I think, you know, Craig, great question. And as a business, you do want to have some of those targets. And I think this is a really unique business where you are having a younger generation of people, young millennials, Gen Z, that are saying, hey, is alcohol a thing I need to be in my life? You're having more of an alcohol-free movement happening right now. So
Mm-hmm.
that's gonna push folks that are skewing younger, as well as we have folks who are older. And this is the one, in my opinion, one of the very few health modalities that your only barrier to entry is your willingness to walk in the door. And you can have folks in their 60s, 70s, 80s enjoying sauna regularly and doing a light cardio workout. That's what's happening to their heart, without having to get on a bicycle, without having to go for a run, when as you continue to age, those activities are harder. It's harder
Yeah,
to move your joints. It's harder to move your muscles. And so it depends on who you're targeting. It depends on who you're speaking to. But we can hit a lot of people with this.
yeah, you just have to be able to speak 10 different Englishes in 10 different generations
Yep.
and keep talking about it. Because you say the word run or swim or hike to certain people, that's them out already. They're not listening to the next thing that comes out of your mouth. So, in terms of, let's say, an introduction to exercise, um, again, once it's all signed off and dotted off by your practitioners and your doctors to do so, you just gotta get in the door.
Yep. Yep.
Does all the heavy lifting for you, as you said earlier. Like the sauna does the heavy lifting, and then the beauty of it, you're so goddamn hot that all you want to do is get into that freezing cold water, and then you go right back in and heat back up again. And it just makes utter sense. And people kind of don't like when it's so simplified. They nearly get offended. They're like, oh, easy for you to say. It's like when you have a migraine, drink some water. People nearly are like, of course I'm drinking water. They get nearly kind of borderline, I'm not talking to you anymore if that's what you're going to speak the way you're going to speak to me. Obviously, we don't speak to them that way. But when you try it first, try the simple message first. And then if it doesn't work, investigate the next layer. But don't try and skip the layers. Don't do a silver bullet mechanism. Don't skip steps, and it will work.
So I think we have a lot of people on the call that, we're preaching to the choir. They love it. We're a weird, I just want to highlight for everybody, we are a weird 3% of the population right now that actually cares about this. The majority of people don't understand what we're talking about. The majority of the people have not tried it, like Steve's saying. And so that ability to sort of not get stuck in the jargon, but actually communicate to your community members about why this is impactful for them. What problem is it going to solve in their lives? What problem is it going to solve in their lives? And I think that if you guys are able to sort of lean in and know your community and listen and begin talking to them, you're going to see more and more folks showing up. Steve, we are running low on time here because you and I could talk for hours and hours and hours. And
I was
we
always
have.
going to be the case.
Indeed, we have. So you guys, I'm going to send over a couple things before we sign off. So one is, if this was helpful at all, if this was interesting at all, please keep joining us. We have another webinar coming up in September. We do these once a month. The next one is all about design and architecture of beautiful spaces for hospitality. We're working with one of the best architect firms out of, in my opinion, in the world, out of Helsinki, Finland, Studio Pusto. You can check out our series there. You can register now for the link for that. Additionally, we provide this type of content and coaching to folks all over the world. So if you're in this, if you're in the business, there's some good questions here. There's a lot of people startup mode right now. There's probably a lot of people in how do I get the funding mode for that? How do I get the approval and build my business plan? I think that's the spot for the accelerator program and for coaching and for continuing to stay connected. Steve and I have been Instagram buddies, DMing at each other and sending voice messages and WhatsApps for literally 5 years together. And now we got to meet in Finland this last June, and it was so magical. And so whenever you can get connected to sort of networking events, be in the room with other people like this, I just want to say, do it, make the effort, make the investment to be in rooms like this, because being an entrepreneur is hard. And having confidence and clarity only comes with being around people to help you get through those things. And so, Steve, we should probably shout out to World Sauna Forum. Happens every year in Finland. We'd love to see anybody who's in here joining us in Jyväskylä, Finland next year. World Sauna Forum just got dropped. Alan's on the call. Alan's our sauna ambassador, worldwide sauna ambassador. So he's happy we're sharing the World Sauna Forum. Hopefully we get more people there. And I invite you to go connect and sort of get over that competition mindset of get to know the other entrepreneurs in the room, get to know other people, even in your country. Steve, you were the first to be be pushing it and doing it and taking the Irish pub, the thing that Ireland is known for, and now saying, hey, we want to do that same thing in a sauna. We want to create that same space. And now you're seeing them pop up all over the place. So kudos to you being on the forefront and ahead of the wave there. Any last things you want to say to anybody, Steve? Any things that people could go to or check out that would be helpful on your end?
Well, firstly, thank you all for actually tuning in. And especially thank you to Justin and the Cedar and Stone team, because I get so amped up when you get to nerd out a bit and really give a bit of concentrated focus to something that's so passionate. It's very rare to find like-minded people like that. You have to go to things like the World Sauna Forum to find them. But again, when your why is big enough, you will. So I just think that's probably my biggest thing is I'm a big believer on your why. Stick to your why and really zone in on why are you doing this. And it's kind of like Justin's marathon analogy. It becomes fairly clear, and then when the times are tough, it becomes a bit easier to overcome it then. Yeah, it's crap, it's sore, it's tough, but again, there's nothing that's ever worth it unless there's a bit of heartache on the way.
Absolutely. Well, you guys, thank you again for joining us. What an honor to be with you, Steve. Go jump in some cold water today. Go jump in a warm sauna today. And if you're joining from all over the world, we can't wait to see you on the next one. Thank you so much, you guys. We'll see you soon.
Fad Saoil.